So recently, Sebastian Stan's girlfriend, fiance, wife, whatever she may be, was attacked online, I guess, for cultural appropriation, Asian night, hashtag geisha, something like that. And Sebastian Stan, I guess, blocked a lot of people over it. And so, to add my simple 2 cents, since this is the Only I Know What's Best channel, and only I know what's best, we're going to put an end to cultural appropriation. Not in the sense of people not wearing clothes of their choice and doing their hair how they want. I noticed that even Justin Bieber got a haircut and it's just gone too far. So it's a wrap for cultural appropriation. Don't complain. Don't write anybody. Don't cancel anybody for freaking cornrows anymore. Dashikis, geisha, whatever it is, it's a wrap. It's off the rails. It's jumped the shark. There's no point to it because it is not the way it was intended to be. The intent initially was to prevent things like cultural tourism, which was people adopting things that they did not understand or have any awareness or appreciation of. That's it. And now you're reaching and claiming things that may already exist or people are doing for fun. For example, remember years ago, Prince Harry of England had a swastika on or something like that, and people were all up in arms. You know, he's basically dressed like a Nazi soldier, and that it was anti-Semitic or whatever else. You know, the Nazis bombed Germany into the Stone Age. Nothing's more backwards than seeing white people with Nazi stuff by all the number of white people that died and would have been wiped out and countries taken over had Germany been successful. But some reason it goes over their head that Hitler was not their friend. But it was it was tone deaf. It was silly. It was a mistake in those ways. But England had a hard time. His family may not have been on the throne. He may not have been born. You know, his grandmother could have died in World War II. Anything could have gone on. And so it was silly on his part to wear a Nazi uniform or whatever it was at the time. But it was not about being anti-Semitic. It was not an attack on other groups. It was really just stupid because he could possibly not exist the way the Germans were bombing England. And so if anybody could be up in arms, that was a chance for the white population of England to say, hey, do you know what the Nazi war machine did to this country? Yet and still it seemed to have been everybody else. And so you want to make sure that right now, when Jews are being attacked in the streets, when Asians are being attacked over COVID, that you're not wasting energy trying to cancel people for dreads. We have police brutality. We have three-quarters of the states in the country trying to switch this to an apartheid style minority rule. They figure whites are not going to be the majority. The last election sent the wrong message. We're just going to change the rules where we don't have to win or we screen out as many people as we can from voting or whatever else. That's the main serious thing that's happening. That's the serious thing that's happening because that's whether it's a democracy, what groups will have rights in the future, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, because they're going to hold on to power as long as they can and address any of the rules and screen people out and block people from moving here and control immigration, and your actual rights can be seized. And someone getting cornrows like you, let's put it simple. Europeans had braids prior to modern Africa coming into contact with them. White women wore hair extensions long before black people grabbed onto it here in the last 15, 20 years. You didn't know it was hair extensions because they just did hair extensions. When black people got old hair extensions, it became blatantly obvious. It's a totally different texture of hair. It's in different colors. It's blended in all these different ways. You make a spectacle of them, letting everybody know you spend $150 every weekend of your $400 check. That's what's different. But white women clipping their hair extensions out, they already had weave, they already had that, they already braided their hair. You come up with braids in modern history. I'm being very careful because, of course, black people came up with a lot of stuff being the first group of people. And so a lot of things had no choice but to transmit through. But I just mean Europeans, when they came to the Americas in this modern sense that I'm talking about, were already aware of braids. They have pictures and portraits and paintings going back long time for braids. And whatever style they are, whatever look they have, they've tried it. So stop pestering these people about how they're doing their hair. How white people do their hair is of no consequence to anyone. It's like accusing us of cultural appropriation because I'm dressed like this. Now you may say it's not the same because our form of dress was imposed on us by Western colonial powers and slaveholders and whatever else. That's why I speak this language. That's why I dress this way or whatever else. And so I'm not appropriating Western culture or white culture or European culture because it was imposed upon us. But you're only punching up for so long. And at this point, schools, the children in this country, there's no longer a white majority. That number that has them petrified, has them taking over the state houses, has them watching the signals from these elections, realizing that there will not be this totalitarian white majority in the future, is the same reason minority groups need to start being careful. Because while none of us will be the type of majority white people have been thus far, at a certain point, they will have a valid point that you do have the power to pick on them. We just put sanctions on Ethiopia because the majority group took over after feeling oppressed for a long time, and the leader won the Nobel Peace Prize, and Ethiopia is back to its ancient glory, and now we're dealing with worrying about possible genocide. Because you can be a minority long enough that you can shift from getting things equal to dominating or punishing another group. And so you definitely want to be aware and sensitive that everything is not okay. Everything white is not bad. Yes, it pains me to say it, but but it's the truth. And we know it's the truth. It's one thing for the comedians, it's one thing to vent your frustration. And as we've seen over the past couple of years, plenty of white people have adopted those frustrations. There were enough white people across the world out in the streets for Black Lives Matter. There are plenty of white politicians coming to power right now and fighting against Muslim bans and kids in cages and things like that. So this idea that they can't braid their hair when they want to or wear dashiki, they have the power to do whatever the fuck they want. The fact that we are spending any of our energy offering some say about it, these people are still in freaking control. They can dress like a geisha or wearing cornrows with a dashiki hat on it if they want to. What the fuck could you really do about it? Harass them online? That's it. So be careful. The power is going to shift. And when the power shifts, I want to make sure that I was part of the legacy to make sure that we offer white people what we've been asking for. That's what progressive whites are working on. That they may not be the majority forever, but the rules are in place not to become a minority rule country, but to say we were fair when we were on top. And if somebody else gets on top, Christianity is protected because Christians protected Muslims and Hindus and Jews and atheists. It says whites will be protected because blacks were protected. Asians were protected. Muslims, whoever, Native Americans were protected. I'm being abstract. Right? I know. But the point being is that many of them are fighting to have this country live up to its ideas. If it was 100% of them not fighting for that and fighting to be a dominant group, then it would be a wrap. So we have half to the majority of white people who believe at least in the ideas. They don't have to love Mexicans, they don't have to love Native Americans, but they do love America and the idea that this can be an egalitarian utopia. And they don't want to see it ruined by small-minded bigotry. And so here I am, as a minority, for the time being, reminding all of us that as we deal with this paradigm shift, not to get lost in the minutia. It's not important. It is really not important that people who have taken over popular culture, which African Americans have. It was one thing when they were projecting mammies and sambos across the world or whatever else, but at this point, we're doing it ourselves. With all our pop singers grinding their crotch into the cameras and our rappers and how they want to dress or whatever else, we're selling the myth. And if they freaking believe it, whose fault is that? We're saying, hey, we're cool. This is how we dress. This is what cool is. You don't think white people expect to dominate what's cool? They dominate what was beautiful. They dominate what everything else. And we've seized a lot of that. Their kids want to be us rather than the other way around the way when I grew up. So, black kids in my generation were trying to do John Wayne or something. And now white kids are trying to do Travis Scott. Take the win. Take the win. Instead of berating these people, take it as an opportunity to enhance their understanding. Take it as an opportunity. They have dreads or whatever else. Say, hey, when did you do that? What is that? And give them a little bit of a story about it. If you know the damn story. Because a lot of people are out here attacking people about cultural appropriation, and you don't know nothing about the damn culture either. Most black people don't know enough about being black. They think running around here like some rap video caricature is what means being black. Don't know nothing about the damn history. Don't know how to get out of the situation they're in. You don't know how to be black. How are you going to tell somebody else about being black? You don't know anything about being Asian. You don't know anything about Jewish society. So calm down. Most of these Caribbean cultures and African cultures know fuck all about each other. It's not okay for you to be black and from Atlanta and get dreads no more than it is for somebody white from Atlanta. It's not your culture either. We can pick up Irish stuff. We can pick up Italian things. We can do what we want and they can't. Let's get used to the idea that this is going to be a fair fight. Maybe not in my lifetime, but in your lifetime. White people are scrambling right now to hold on to those last remaining vestiges of power, of majority rule. And now they're trying to change the rules. That's what you need to worry about, because that is a sign that the inevitable is happening. They will not be a majority. And when they are not a majority, you're no longer punching up. So you don't want to go from fighting for equality to bullying or vengeance. So please leave people alone about cultural appropriation. If you don't know anything about what they're doing and you don't understand it, whatever they're putting on, then shut your face. If you do understand it and you have an opportunity and you're not intruding on somebody else's privacy, maybe you can strike up a conversation and expand their understanding. That's your job. It's your job to say, hey, do you realize geisha is this? Do you realize we're fighting for this? That's what you have an opportunity to do. Say, that's not nothing to brag about. That's not cute. These women did not necessarily have rights or whatever else. If you're doing geisha, you need to have some context if you want. They were not party girls out having fun under their own accord. And they are not. And if you really want to put some pressure on about geishas, take it to Japan. Make sure they have rights. Not harassing freaking white girls about dressing up. That's going to make as much sense as harassing Japanese women for dressing up like European women. Again, it doesn't sound the same, colonialism or whatever else, but we are shifting. And the shift is the problem. As long as you're fighting against a bully, all your means are right. You're fighting for survival. You're fighting to make things equal. But slowly but surely, just like people feel about the women's movement or whatever else, you start to reach a parity, and then it's just mean. Once the groups are starting to be equals, the rules are starting to change in your favor, and you're still punching and kicking people, then it's just mean. And we're not there yet. We're not in any position to bully or control white people, but it's coming. Like I may have mentioned, I've tried this recorded a couple of times and kept getting a phone call. So if I haven't said it or if I'm repeating myself, I apologize. But we have sanctions against Ethiopia because the majority is close to committing genocide at this rate. Because for a long time, they were not in power and they were punching up. Women were punching up. But women are another group that makes up a majority, gets their rights, and you can become the oppressor. The Jews, same thing of why Israel was stopped, because Israel has a right to exist, but not expand. We want to be able to distinguish between Israel and South Africa during apartheid. So they expand, take over some more territory, they get attacked. The attacks, are just to draw attention. It's a situation where Jews wrestle for being an oppressed minority but have the most power in the Middle East. You're not punching up, you're punching down. And that breeds that resentment. Nobody remembers World War II, and it's getting to be far in the rear view. All of my life And the life of most of the people younger than me has been rocks versus tanks in Israel versus Palestine. For most of our lives, you've been the bully. Most of our lives, there's this contrast between the way you were complaining about the way you were treated with the ghettos and whatever else, and you running ghettos. So I do not want Black America or any other America to become American Netanyahus. I do not want us to become the Tigray of Ethiopia or any other group that reaches parity or power and just shifts the balance. Now we're on top, and now you're going to see how it feels. That's not the point of this. That's not the point of freedom. Otherwise, the white people out there marching, for Black Lives Matter, the white politicians and white people who are fighting for equality or against the Muslim ban or for asylum for migrants and people from South America and Central America to come here are in the wrong. They are doing what the right is telling them that they're doing, which is giving it away and selling out themselves to be slaughtered later. We're saying all we want is the same rights and freedoms that you enjoy. That does not include harassing people for cornrows. Have a good day.